massages and spa days.
Yeah.
So you don't need to drink on those times, really.
Yeah, exactly. Those make those things worse.
Yeah.
Like the two things you just mentioned are worse with alcohol, in my opinion.
Trust me, I know. So for a friend's 40th, we went for a brunch, massage, and both occasions I was vomiting.
Yeah.
So
I learned uneasy bedfellows.
So you're literally like swirling the alcohol around your system.
Hey, and welcome to the Forties Formula, your go-to place for insightful discussions on navigating the 40s and thriving in this transformative decade.
We're your hosts, Jasmin and Amanda, two women that are passionate about exploring the challenges and adventures that come with turning 40 and what lies ahead. So in past seasons of the 40s Formula, we have had doctors, we have had coaches, we have had wellness professionals of all ilk touching on the topic of alcohol. But today is the first day that we're actually interviewing someone who is fully and proudly sober. So we're so happy to have you with us, Michelle.
Thank you. I feel like, wow, I'm in good company.
Amazing.
I would consider myself sober curious. And again, I don't even know if I'm using that term correctly, but someone who has significantly decreased their alcohol load in the past 3 to 5 years. But the more I get into metabolic health and longevity research, the more I realize that this is a growing movement and it needs to be. Can you describe for us the moment or the series of moments where it clicked for you that you had to stop alcohol in your life?
Yeah. Okay, I love this question because a lot of people, not everyone, but a lot of people assume that you have to hit a rock bottom to give up alcohol. And a lot of people assume that you have to have a problem to have stopped drinking. And that wasn't the case for me at all. I think the journey of this started about 10 years ago. I was living in London, working in advertising, very much a work hard, play hard culture. And I was trapped in that cycle. And I could recognize that this wasn't good for me and I needed to get out. So I left, moved to Asia, one-way ticket to Asia, and moved to Singapore, and it was brilliant. But I continue to drink. I continue to drink because it's part of our culture. It's how we connect with people. It's how we meet people. I was an expat here with my now husband. And so this is how we found our friends. I drank a lot less than when I did in London, but it took me another 8 years to completely quit alcohol. I had children. My kids are 5 and 3. And then they're very cute. And then COVID hit. So during that period, obviously kind of drinking stopped for long periods. And then
For some.
Yeah.
For others, it amped up 100%.
For the pregnancy. Pregnancy. But yes, during COVID, it kind of went one or two ways, I think, for a lot of people.
You're right.
And coming out of COVID, I was like, I want to start getting my life back. I want to start going with my friends. Went out a couple of times. 1 or 2 drinks would feel dreadful, and my tolerance was low. I was throwing up outside of taxis.
With 2 drinks?
2 or 3 drinks, not being able to drink to the level that I used to, and just absolutely hating it. I really felt like I was forcing myself to drink. And there was a number of occasions where you're with groups of friends and they were like, just have a drink. And I was like, oh, go on, I'm really kind of forcing myself. And I think I just kind of came to that realization that this just wasn't serving me anymore. I think alongside that, I had a very stressful job. So I was working at Disney. I was working on the launch of Disney Plus for 8 markets. We had back-to-back launches. I had a 1 and a 3-year-old at home at the time. And I was training for the Singapore Marathon.
Wow.
And I was like, I just had this feeling in the back of my mind that I wasn't reaching my full potential. That no matter how hard I was trying, I just was like 95% there. And I was like, something's holding me back. And I couldn't put my finger on what it was. And with the marathon coming up, I thought, I'm not going to drink for 6 months. I'm going to train, get my head down, not drink. And after a month, 2 months into it, I started to notice like a massive difference in, my training, in my patience with my children, in my ability to do my job, that my stress levels were managed better, my sleep was better. And I just realized that actually all it took was kind of removing alcohol to make such an incredible difference. And that has only escalated as time's gone on.
Oh, girl, there are so many parts of that I want to unpack. We're going to unpack the patience with kids thing a bit later because I think that's a real strong note that moms especially need to hear. But I want to circle back to the very first thing you said about living in London, drinking a ton, having a career, drinking as part of the career. Yeah. I was talking to you off air about a client that I saw yesterday that is 55 years old. She feels that she needs alcohol, and she said this as much, because professionally her job demands it. And because she does so much business in the Japan and Korea markets, if she was visibly not drinking alcohol, that would be a problem. How would you talk to someone like that who she really does for her own health want to cut down, but feels that she cannot?
Yeah, I hear this all the time, particularly, in Asia and particularly in certain sectors. Yeah. People are just, they come to me and they're like, I really want to drink less, I want to stop. And for me, a lot of these people are actually in senior leader roles, senior leadership roles.
Yes.
And that's where I say, well, that's got to start at the top. That change has got to start somewhere, and it's got to start with somebody. And if you're in a position, you might not be the CEO, you might not be at the very top, but change has to come from somewhere. I always find, for me, that when I'm out with colleagues or I'm doing business, that if I make sure I'm the first person to order a drink, and I will order, obviously, a non-alcoholic alternative, maybe a non-alcoholic beer. And by being the first person, I will guarantee you that at least 50% of the table will order a non-alcoholic option. Wow. Because most people don't want to drink either. Most people want to go home with their families. Most people want to feel good, have a good night's sleep, get up and train or do whatever. But there's habit, that habit of I'm just going to order a wine. There's doing what everybody else around the table does. So it's like, okay, well, everyone else is drinking a beer, so I feel like I need to have a beer with them. And actually, by being bold and being the first person to say, I'm going to have a non-alcoholic alternative, you watch the relief go around that table, because everyone else will go, oh, God, thank God I don't have to drink either. This is great.
It's almost like peer pressure, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then, but do you still get that peer pressure? So let's say you're out and, someone's like, I don't know, pouring wine or whatever it is. And then you say, oh no, I don't drink anymore, or I'm okay. Will they be like, oh, go and have one. It's not going to cause any harm. Do you find you get that kind of a response still?
That is fascinating. I'm getting it less and less and less now. So many more people, a lot of time I just say, no, thanks, I'll have something else. And then every now and then I'll say, oh, I don't drink. And people are like, oh yeah, okay, why? Or tell me more. And more people have got questions. More people are interested in learning what you're drinking. Can I try one of those instead? Mm-hmm. More people are interested in how you're doing it than getting grief anymore. Yeah. I think it's also now people know that people don't want to be that guy or girl giving the grief. Like it's a bit embarrassing to be that person who sat there going, go on, have a drink, don't be so boring.
Yeah, that's your 20s. You don't do that, you get to this point.
That's your 20s, and that's also just like a sign of your priorities. And I say that like real harsh because I believe that. It's like, if you're pressuring me to drink, that's because you are feeling insecure about the level of alcohol that you are consuming, so you should look at that. Yeah, it's nothing to do with me.
You want someone to drink with.
Yes.
You don't actually necessarily want my company or my connection.
Yeah.
But you say it's interesting about the 20s is that when you go back to the UK now, like people in their 20s are doing it as well. People they're choosing the non-alcoholic Guinness in the pub. They're choosing the non-alcoholic alternative, and they're not getting shit from their friends.
Yeah, which is great. I love that generational shift exists. Yeah. Right? It's as much as I love that younger women are lifting weights and getting, visible muscles and not feeling shame about it. I love that young women are not drinking as much alcohol. Yeah. That is fabulous. And it's funny you mentioned about the curiosity about 0% alternatives. Yeah. We were just at this glorious wedding in Austria with, a group that drinks. Okay, this group drinks. Yeah. But what was cool is that they were providing 0% alternatives to their signature drinks at the wedding. So they had like a Mai Tai and a 0% Mai Tai. And you'll laugh. My husband and I were drinking the 0%. They put it down in front of us. We each take a sip. And my husband's like, I got a regular one. I was like, no, that's how good they are. Yeah. They take. And he's like, no. He's like, no, I promise you the alcohol. I was like, Bro, that's how good they are now, is that they taste legit. So if alcohol for you is about the mixology and the enjoyment and stuff, that's coming back too.
Yeah.
So you don't even have to miss out on that.
Yeah, and there's amazing drinks now that aren't trying to be other things either.
Yes.
So really incredible spirits that aren't trying to mimic gin and vodka and all
There
the
you
other
go.
things. That they're just their own thing, and they taste amazing.
Yeah.
Super sophisticated, low in sugar.
Yep.
You know, and it's great. Yeah, low calories as well. So if you're on that kind of weight loss journey, it's great.
It's a
Choose an
win-win-win.
alternative.
That's what I found. So when I used to drink when I was younger, not that I don't drink now, but I don't drink as much now. For me, it's very rare. I realised I used to love drinking cocktails and stuff because it was actually the sugar I wanted and not the alcohol. Then when I cut out sugar from my diet, I realised, actually, I don't really like the taste of alcohol. So my intake of alcohol has really come down. And yes, sometimes I'll have some champagne or I'll have some wine, but it's not regularly enough because, one, I don't like the feeling of not being able to sleep. And two, it's not giving me the same feeling as having, I don't know, a mojito with like shitloads of sugar in there.
Yeah. Right? Just have a slice of cake and call it a day.
Yeah.
If you're going for sugar, right? If you're going for sugar, just do it.
Yeah.
And I say that to my kids all the time because I obviously don't want them drinking the
Don't
sugar.
drink alcohol.
Well, I just drink sugar.
Kids are 9 and 6, kids are 9 and 6.
Amanda, I think we need to let our listeners know that we don't just use the Meat Club because they're a sponsor of the show. They're a sponsor of the show because we love what they bring.
Oh, it is so true, Jasmine. It's been over a year with the Meat Club, and I can confidently say they have made cooking at home so much easier. Their grass-fed beef, organic chicken, and wild-caught seafood are the best quality you get in Singapore. And let's not forget, it's ethically sourced.
Yes, and beyond the quality, their subscription service is next level. When you subscribe, you'll unlock $140 worth of rewards, like on your second delivery, 2 exclusive Meat Club hats.
By your 4th delivery, a restaurant-grade chef's knife.
On your 6th delivery, a beautiful wooden chopping board.
And by your 8th delivery, a $30 voucher to use on your favorites. It's like they are rewarding you for making healthy choices for your family.
And it doesn't just stop there. The subscription model is perfect for busy families. Just click, set, and forget. Plus, you'll get up to 15% off your groceries with every subscription order. No last-minute dashes to the store.
The Meat Club really takes the taste of Australia and New Zealand right to your doorstep, making healthy living easy and stress-free.
And because you're part of the Forties Formula family, use code TFF12 for $12 off your first order with no minimum spend. Just visit themeatclub.com.sg to subscribe now.
And follow them on Instagram at @TheMeatClubSG for exclusive content, cooking tips, and special offers. The Meat Club, rewarding families like yours with premium quality every single time.
Now, back to the chat.
But I'll say that if you want the sugar, I'd rather you ate it than drink it.
Yeah.
And so, the same applies for drinks, I guess.
And after a while, you lose the taste.
Yeah.
So, what I found now is, if ever, my husband, I did Paris Marathon in April, and him and my mum bought a bottle of champagne to toast me, and I was like, okay, fine. And it was my favourite champagne. It was like Perrier, and I used to love it. And I was like, I'm just going to have a little sip. I'm just going to try a little bit. And I had a little sip, and I was like, no. And it's so funny. It's like all I can taste now is the ethanol.
Yeah.
When I taste it, it's like it tastes so strong for me that I'm like, I just can't.
Yeah, it's not pleasurable anymore.
No.
And I think anyone who's made a switch in healthy eating patterns kind of feels the same way, right? Something that you eliminate for quite a long time actually is less and less desirable. And again, that's a positive change in our brains, right? That's something that helps support your journey, which actually leads me to a question I'm dying to ask you, right? So you're 2 years sober, right?
2.5 now.
2.5 now.
Yeah.
Is it for life?
Yeah.
Like, are you comfortable saying, I am done with alcohol?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I think, I couldn't tell you my exact date. I think a lot of people count the clocks and have the clocks.
Yeah.
If I go back, I can probably say it was that Coke party was the last time that I drank.
Yeah.
But I haven't kind of counted the clocks and had that pressure. It doesn't serve me in any way whatsoever.
Fair points.
And I think what I kind of want to clarify for your listeners is I wasn't drinking a lot. I was maybe drinking once a week and I'd have 1 or 2 drinks.
Yeah.
But that small amount was just enough to give me 1 or 2 bad night sleeps, to affect my anxiety, to make me overthink things at work and stress about stuff, for me not have patience with the kids, for me to not train properly for a couple of days. It was such a small amount, and that was why it was so shocking to me, because the difference that it made. because, so many people say, okay, 1 or 2 drinks, however many units a week is fine. But actually, it was such a small amount that was throwing me off. It wasn't the big nights out, of course, made you feel horrible.
Yeah,
but
2-3 day hangovers that you can't manage.
But you do that, once a quarter?
Yeah.
It was actually those 1 or 2 drinks a week. As soon as I would get back to normal, I'd have a couple of drinks, I'd be back down again.
Were you tracking, like, do you have like a watch which will show, how your sleep was and
HRV.
was there anything which showed?
I was doing the polar and so doing my HRV in the morning, and that was just like the results were shocking.
From one drink. Just want to really emphasize that, because obviously there's a dose response, so more is worse.
Yeah,
but none is the only way.
Yeah,
right, to not have an effect.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is, it wasn't instant, right? So it's like, of course, okay, I didn't feel the hangover, but it took time. It took months and months for me to start for it to really, the penny drop, and for me to actually realise how much better I was feeling. And it was incremental, but over time, the difference has just been completely transformational.
Yeah. Are there times that it's harder? Are there certain occasions where you're like, this, I would have a drink here? Like when I think about my own drinking habits, right? Like I was just in Germany, like an ice cold, fresh brewed German beer.
Yeah.
Hard to pass up for me. Are there moments that are hard for you?
It's that summer's feeling when it's cool and everyone goes to a beer garden, and you're like in Australia or in the UK and it's sunny, and the energy is just amazing and warm, and everyone's like, sometimes then I'm like, oh, I want a glass of rosé. But what I will always do, and this is my number one advice to anybody who is trying to cut down or quit, make your first drink a non-alcoholic. So I have like a non-alcoholic wine or beer or whatever.
Oh my God, Amanda, have you heard? Little Farms now has 6 restaurants all across Singapore, including their all-day dining concept in Sentosa.
Oh, yes, I heard. And I love that each restaurant offers a consistent menu and dining experience while also featuring exclusive dishes that reflect the unique vibe of the neighborhood they're in.
Little Farms is definitely my go-to brunch place. And honestly, I love their coffee.
Oh, and you know that they're open all day, right? Their new dinner menu has me drooling. We're talking dishes like rendang lamb shank, organic chicken and cauliflower rice, and sesame tuna tataki with soba, and much more.
And let's not forget about their weekly restaurant deals. They've got 1-for-1 on small plates every Tuesday, happy hour on Thursday, and my personal favourite, kids eat free on Sundays. Now, Little Farms just needs to get to Bukit Timah.
Plus, we have an exclusive offer for our listeners. Save 10% off your online shop at littlefarms.com with the code FORTIES10 when you spend a minimum of $100.
Now, back to the chat.
As soon as you have that first drink, it takes the edge off. You won't want
the second
you won't want to switch over. You'll very rarely want to switch over to alcohol. And so it's a really good tip to anyone. So the first tip is be the first to order. So to set the trend for the table. And then the second is, you'll make your first drink a non-alcoholic one.
That's amazing. Like I've never thought about. I mean, to be fair, not that I drink that much anyway. But I think if I was out in a situation where everyone was drinking, I think that would be like the cue to be like, oh, actually, I've been all right with my drink, but I have been drinking, so I don't need the next one. Because it's usually the first drink which kind of starts it all off, and then your inhibitions come down, and you're like, oh, that's all right.
And then you lose your decision-making ability, and you're like, okay, I'll just get another one. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I think, I mentioned that I was just in Germany, right? I think even, other cultures are already way down the line on this. Like, so the German beer garden that I was referring to, there was already a 0% option on the menu. Like, it's already there. Yeah. It's all over Europe, right? It's like, I feel like Singapore is a bit slower. We got 0% Heineken, and, probably we won't have them as a sponsor now. Not the tastiest choice.
No,
but I think that's what my husband says. So he has tried to switch out to the non-alcoholic beer, and he just says it just doesn't do it. It doesn't do it justice. And my tip was you need to go a little bit of time without drinking anything, so that when you do have that drink, then you've almost forgotten what the real one tastes like. Do you think it's kind of? Do you think that's?
a good theory, but I would actually go the other way and say he just hasn't found one
That
he hasn't
works,
found one that's amazing. So here in Singapore, freespirit.com are amazing.
Oh, yeah.
They're a non-alcoholic bottle shop. Emma and Bex are amazing.
Yeah.
And they
Love
curate.
flavors.
Yeah, they curate everything, so you know that you're getting something that's going to taste great, that's great quality. And they also, on their website, they have a map of where they distribute to. So they don't just sell direct to consumer, they sell into hospitality as well.
Right.
So their website, they've got hundreds of different places all over Singapore where you can go and get a good non-alcoholic alternative drink that they're selling.
Yeah, that's very, very cool. Make it easier to find.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, and it's the craft beers as well. Like some of them are just so good. And the hardest thing I find with Heineken is what Heineken do is they say, buy Heineken and we're going to throw Heineken Zero in for free. And so a lot of the bars and restaurants are going, well, I'm getting my 0% beer for free. I've got a 0% on the menu, tick.
You got it.
So it's like, they're kind of monopolizing the market. But because of that, people feel that that's the only option, and that option maybe isn't as good as some of the incredible alternatives.
It's definitely the most widely available option on here right now, and that's a shame, like I said, because other places are doing it way better. So Singapore, catch up.
And it's just like pushing back on hospitality. Like people want choice. Like this isn't like 10, 15 years ago when you had one vegetarian option on the menu.
There you go.
You know,
and it's always an eggplant parmesan.
Which I quite like, to be honest.
but they vary in quality. It goes up,
that's
and that's it, right? You can't just have like one non-alcoholic drink and think you've ticked the box. Like people do want variety, and the more you have, the more people are going to order.
Yeah.
When you first gave up, or even now, did you find that you started drinking maybe more Coke or lemonade and more of the sugary drinks just to kind of compensate?
No, so I'm not a fizzy drink drinker. So I never have been. Even as a kid, I was like that weird child that didn't like McDonald's and didn't like fizzy drinks. So I've never really had that. So I never moved over. I was experimenting with a lot of the non-alcoholic alternatives. So I've kind of got this huge non-alcoholic bar at home with all of those alternatives. But I would always be looking for like low sugar options, just wanting to keep my sugar low. And I'm not very good with caffeine either, so I didn't want anything like loaded with caffeine. I got really into like kombuchas and it was also things like Sodally.
Yeah. Oh, I love Sodally. I drink one every night.
Yeah, which are like prebiotic sodas, low sugar, low calories, and they're great. So I think it's just going out there and trying all these like amazing new drinks.
Yeah. No, there's so many options now. And I think, like I said, our listeners definitely can, from around the world, can start exploring some in their own territories as well.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on like dry January, sober October, like these like little 30-day experiments with sobriety? Like, is that something that you think is a great gateway to trying sobriety, or just kind of something that like makes you then binge at the end?
Okay.
Let's be real.
2 points. That's the first. That of course they're amazing, and there's so many people that I've met that was the gateway to long-term sobriety.
Okay.
And people rose to the challenge. It also started for charity as well. So I think there's just that point to know that people were doing it to raise money, and people still do it to raise money. Yeah. So I think if you've got those two goals, that goal in mind, it's something to be just mindful of. That being said, I've never succeeded at a dry January and a sober October, where I tried for so many years and just never managed to get it. I think the longest I did was 28 days.
Yeah, so close.
So close, I know. But do you want to know what it was? It's like I was coming, particularly with dry January, I was coming at it from a place of deprivation.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So what it was like I'm doing dry January to almost punish myself from a gluttonous December, from overdoing it, from drinking and eating too much, from feeling like a sloth, and it was coming from like a place like I'm taking this thing away almost to punish myself from overdoing it in December.
And then you got this countdown going on in the back of your mind, like, oh, I can drink in this many days, and I can.
And you're just miserable the whole time because you're seeing it as like taking away joy, it's like taking away, especially off the back of Christmas when it's such a merry time. Yeah. I think that just heightens it a little bit more. So for anyone who's doing it, I think you just need to change your mindset going into dry January. Like what are you gaining from this? And really maybe spending some time educating yourself on alcohol during that time. Yeah. There are some incredible like books and resources out there. You go and listen to Huberman's episode on alcohol and read How to Quit Alcohol in a World. No. How to Quit Drinking in a World Obsessed with Alcohol. We'll link to it below. By Holly Whitaker, or Sober Curious by Ruby Warrington. Like, some of these books just changed my entire perspective on it. So, you know, if you are going to do Dry January, maybe spend a little bit of time listening to some sobriety podcasts or alcohol-free podcasts, and, you know, reading some books, because I think the more information that you've got, the more it's going to change your reason for doing it and change your why for doing it.
And that's the thing, I think why is the key, because I think most people, like you said, like, I can't have alcohol, but I really want to, as opposed to, I don't want to have it. And those two very simple ways of looking at it can make such a big difference in how you approach those next 31 days.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, no one likes the feeling of deprivation, right? As nutritionists, we see this all the time. Nobody likes to have something taken away.
Yeah.
But if you see it as an experiment during which you use that time to add education to your life, right? To read something, to listen to something, then it's not so much deprivation exercise as an experiment in what if.
Yeah.
Right? And what if I knew more?
Yeah, and it's also trying to get to the heart of what you think you're depriving yourself of.
That's right.
So for me, like, on the surface it was alcohol, but actually when I started to really analyze it, it was human connection.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I drank to be connected to my friends, like my family, my loved ones. I drank to feel happy. I drank for connection. I never ever drank alone at home. Like, I was always in that social situation. And then you start to think, well, how can I have connection with alcohol? How can I have connection without alcohol? What are the things that I can do with my friends and family that don't involve alcohol? You know, if you're not ready to go and sit in a bar and drink a non-alcoholic alternative. And when you start to think about actually what is it that you're getting from drink that's not the alcohol or the high, then you can go and start trying to seek that out in other places. And then that's when you start planning. So if you're going to get through Dry January, plan. It's like, you know, fill every weekend with fun things that you're going to really look forward to doing that just don't involve alcohol.
Massages and spa days.
Yeah.
You don't need to drink on those times, really.
Yeah, exactly. Those make those things worse.
Yeah.
Like, the two things you just mentioned are worse with alcohol, in my opinion.
Trust me, I know. So for a friend's 40th, we went for a brunch, massage. I can't remember which way around we did. I think we did the brunch first, alcoholic brunch, followed by a massage. And both occasions I was vomiting.
Yeah.
So
I
learned. Yeah.
uneasy bed photos.
So you're literally like swirling the alcohol around your system. Oh, God.
And that's also, you know, we were talking off air, and I hope you don't mind me disclosing this now, but you are only 38, right?
Yes.
And you went sober 36, 35 and a half?
Yes.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah.
So, you know, you are still young, right? So this is one of those things where it's like, honestly, it's an act of maturity to re-examine your social connections, right? How do we connect to each other, and why is it revolving around alcohol? If that's the big struggle for you, right? What is it about your social group that relies so hard on alcohol, if that's the issue, right? And I think as we get older into our 40s, it's easier, you're more empowered to kind of peel back the onion of what is authentic human connection and set some of the boundaries that might be tough. And I think that's one of the first things you mentioned, you know, about like starting this journey is you have to just be comfortable saying, I'm not drinking. And the more you say it, the easier it gets.
It really does. And I think just coming back to kind of that connection is almost, when you were saying it then, it sounds like, you know, you might have to reevaluate your relationships with your friendships. I think some of that is in your head as well. Is like, I honestly thought that, like, my parents are big drinkers, they're really fun and they love a drink, but I thought that they wouldn't want to kind of spend time with me or love me anymore. I thought my husband wouldn't love me anymore because we used to drink together. I thought my friends wouldn't want to hang out with me anymore. I thought in giving up alcohol I was going to be alone and it was going to change my life, and even though I might feel physically better, like, am I going to have those connections anymore? But it just wasn't the case. You know, as soon as I stopped drinking, you know, my friends were still there. You know, you know, my husband, of course, loved me even more, probably.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I was like...
Because now you're a designated driver.
Exactly.
Have you found that your husband is naturally drinking less now because you're not drinking together?
And my parents and my friends.
So you've had a positive impact on the lives of those around you.
Exactly. And it's so funny now, because my husband's like an amazing cook. So, on Sundays we'll have barbecues, invite people around, and people love coming over, and they say they love coming over, not just for my husband's amazing food, but because on a Sunday they don't feel any pressure to like have a drink, or like they can come and hang out with friends without it having to be a late night, without it having to be like a barbecue where you're knocking them back. They just really enjoy spending time with us, and it's like, again, your connection actually becomes more authentic and more real. And then the other thing is you just attract new people naturally. You attract more people who are on your wavelength. You're having richer conversations, people who are spending time doing more interesting things because they've got the capacity to do more interesting things. And that's what happened with me. Like, over time, more and more of myself became available to start making, this could sound really, really cheesy, but start making some of my dreams a reality. Because, I'd always say I wanted to run a marathon, but I didn't have capacity. I wanted to start a podcast. I didn't have the capacity. And I don't think you ever realize how much 1 or 2 drinks a week can be holding you back.
Yeah, I love that. And again, I think that's a message that needs to be said again and again, right? Is that it's not about taking anything away from you. And in fact, consider a future where you actually have a richer life because of your choice to not drink alcohol.
Yeah.
All right, before we finish, I need to ask you that question that I wanted to circle back to from the very first thing. Mothering, parenting. Okay. So this is one of the biggest roadblocks I think women hit when they're thinking about trimming down their alcohol use. It's like, but drinking is how I get through the day with my kids, or it's what I earn for getting through a day with my kids. And you and I are in the same boat. And I mean, Jasmin, absolutely, to an extent, right? You got a 5 and 3, I got a 4 and 3 and a baby. You got 2 twins and 9, and they're all boys. So let's all sit here saying we have the lived experience of what a stressful day with little kids is like.
Yeah.
How do you offer some direction to the moms who are like, I need this right now in this season?
There is nothing worse than waking up with a dusty head and having to take care of your children.
Like, there is literally nothing worse.
Oh my God. I thought of it as making me shiver.
It almost makes me shake.
Yeah, you wake up on a Sunday morning and you can't function. You just want to stay in bed and eat McDonald's, and you feel horrible, and you have got 2 little people to take care of. First of all, physically, you feel disgusting, but then you feel like a disgusting human being because you're like, I'm letting my children down. I'm letting myself down. This is not the mum that I want to be. And it's like, I hung on to that feeling. So whenever I got to the end of the day and think, God, I just want a glass of wine, it was actually, well, no, because what's the impact that's going to have in the morning? What's the impact that's going to have in my sleep if I'm going to be up 3 or 4 times a night with a child?
It's a downward spiral. You're talking there, like, you want to stay in bed, you want to eat McDonald's, you're going to put the kids in front of the TV, so they're not doing anything productive.
Yeah.
And in fact, it's not just affecting you, it's affecting them as well.
Yeah. And again, so much of that is us habit as well. Like, it's that, and you've got yourself into that, it's habit. I'm going to pour myself a glass of wine, thinking it takes the edge off. It doesn't, it's only going to cause like more anxiety and make you feel worse, within a few hours of drinking it. So I think there's also an education piece. So like, educate yourself on the real impact of how that glass of wine is really making you feel, not just what society and culture has told us to make you feel, because we've all seen the movies and the TV shows where the mum comes in, pours herself a glass of wine, and that's how we unwind from the day. But that's not actually what happens in your body when you have that glass of wine. And again, I've talked about non-alcoholic alternatives, but you pour yourself a glass of non-alcoholic wine, and some of that will have a placebo effect. Just having that habit and that ritual will be enough to take the edge off.
You are absolutely correct, by the way. That is such a great parallel, which is like, we have to dissect the messages we've been fed in anything, right, from the media, and then reconsider, is it the ritual, is it the habit, or is it literally the ethanol? And the answer we all know, right? Yeah. It's much more toward the first side. And, there is, we always get this one as well, but I have a great tolerance. Alcohol doesn't affect me. Yeah. And it's like, but it does.
Yeah. And there's this, so if you ever read like Alan Carr's books, he does kind of all the non-smoking, non-drinking, and he's got one specifically for women. And in it, with stop drinking for women. And he talks like about the big monster and the little monster. So your little monster is the cravings that you will have for the substance. Let's just say it could be sugar, it could be alcohol, in this case alcohol. when you stop drinking for like a period of time, that completely goes away, you know, within a week or 2 weeks. Like that physical craving goes away, especially when it's something that your body really doesn't want or need. It's the big monster. And with addiction, it's the big monster. It's with the lies that we have told ourselves around that substance that keep you feeding it. So it's that I need a drink at the end of the day to unwind. I deserve a drink because I've worked really hard. This is how we connect, we celebrate, we commiserate. Like all of these like lies that culture, society, previous generations and movies have all told us have fed into this. And it's so hard to like rewire your brain and change that thinking. But I think once you can crack it, and once you do, and you realize all of those different signs and points that you're like, oh right, okay, actually I don't, when I'm feeling this craving, like the beer garden, when I want a glass of rosé, it's just a moment that I've been conditioned to associate with drink.
I guess sometimes it could just be you just want that alone time. So that ritual of sitting there, you know, with your drink, just a bit of time to decompress. And I just had a thought. I thought, wouldn't it be interesting, like, because I drink a lot of sparkling water and I drink soda in the evenings. What if you just poured it into a wine glass?
Yeah. Like, there you go.
You know.
There you go. And again, sat alone.
Yeah. Because that's basically after having the whole day with your kids, you probably just need a bit of time to let it go. And actually what I like doing in the evenings is I'll take my dog for a walk, put a podcast on, and I've noticed now that I'm walking longer and longer. So I've gone from doing 10,000 steps around my neighborhood to now doing like 17,000 steps in the day.
Yeah, to get further and further away from your children.
Exactly that.
We've all been
Definitely. I'll walk to the ends of the earth. All right, now, well, again, I mentioned earlier that you are a young buck in here in the Forties formula. You're not quite yet 40, but we are so going to ask you our summary question that we ask every guest. And maybe you can just give some advice for women that you've interacted with in their 40s, right? What is your 40s formula? What do you tell women who are looking to truly thrive in this decade?
Yeah. First of all, I'm very excited about.
Yeah, you should be.
I've heard it's one of the best decades.
It really is.
So I'm looking forward to it. I think for me, it's going to be about kind of owning my choices, like making those decisions and being really confident in who I am and the decisions that I'm going to make. So I think every year you just kind of get better and better. Like I wish someone told me that in my 20s. Like genuinely, like the more you learn, the more you know, the more confident you are going to become and the more happy you're going to become in yourself. And so I think it's really just looking at those, owning those decisions, being confident in my ability to make those decisions, and sticking with it.
Nailed it, girl. I love it. That's something we stand for here on the 40s.
Yeah, the no shits given, right?
No shits given decade. That's right. Own it. Well, Michelle, thank you so much for joining us today. You've been a wealth of information for our listeners, and we hope to have you on again soon.
I would love to.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thanks.
Want more from the 40s formula? Every Friday, we'll be sending our 4Play Friday newsletter direct to your inbox with 4 hot topics, tips, and trends personally curated by Jasmin and Amanda.
All you need to do is visit thefortiesformula.com and sign up with your email address. That's the FORTIES formula.com. Guys, you know how much we love coffee. And if you want to show us some love, you know you can get us one.
Just visit buymeacoffee.com/the40s formula. Cheers. Before we go, please remember to hit subscribe and take a moment to support the 40s formula by leaving a review on your favorite podcast platform.
Your reviews will help us to reach more people and allow us to continue to bring valuable content. It should only take a moment, and it's a free way for you to support the show.
You can also stay updated with the 40s formula by following us on Instagram at the 40s formula, all one word. We share behind-the-scenes insights, episode updates, and much more, so please be sure to hit that follow button.
We appreciate your time and support. Thank you for being part of this community, and we'll be back next week for more empowering conversations with inspiring guests.
Bye.
Bye. think,
Yeah, no, good.
again, you're so good, again, because you also have a podcast, right? You're so good at giving those little information snacks that people want to hear. Like, this is literally what you do.
Yeah.
First drink, non-alcoholic. You know, it's like, here's exactly what you do, not like the theory of what you might do. But like, do this, then you will have more success. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's so
and
helpful.
I've written a book, and I'm just kind of in the process of like getting it edited, and it's
Nice.
how to drink less alcohol.
Yes, girl.
10 steps, right?
Amazing. That's just, you know, like,
How has nobody written a book on how to drink less alcohol? Because everyone just comes at it from sobriety, and it's from this place of deprivation, and so many people are like, well, that's addiction, that's not me, that's not relevant to me. And but a lot of people are like, how to drink less alcohol and still have fun, you know, and
still have social connections,
Yeah.
still have a professional job in Japan, you know, and all these things, right?
yeah.
see, because I find my husband, he's in that place now where he knows he's got high blood pressure. He needs to sort it out. But he's like, but work, and he works with a bunch of, you know, 40, 50-year-old men, maybe some are 60, where that is the culture and that is all they know. Whereas I feel like the younger generation is definitely better at it.
In the next 10 years, that they'll be out.
Yeah.
It'll
You're
be
right.
different, it'll
Yeah.
be totally different.
Yeah.
It's just going to take like one or two
Yeah.
things. I think for your friend though, like, your client, it's really hard, particularly in Japan and Korea, where there is a big drinking culture, and you don't leave until the boss goes and everything else.
Yeah, it's a respect thing. Like, there's a respect issue going on there.
Exactly.
And again, she's 55 herself, meaning like she's super senior.
Yeah.
Like,
So if she's at the top, and she's got to start making those changes.
I agree so much.
But you know, I think maybe it's an unpacking of like, okay, well, also what's the worst that can happen, right? So what happens? You upset client, you lose some business. Do you not go out and win clients then who are more aligned to the values of you and your company?
Yeah.
Something that people need to look at is like, what is the values of the company?